Cardinal Louis Antonio Tagla, it's a pleasure to meet you, and thank you very much for doing this interview.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Your Eminence, let me begin by asking you about growing up in the Philippines. What was it like, your childhood, your family life?
Well, my family is a normal, ordinary Filipino family. My parents were hard-working Filipinos, and the focus, I remember, was very simple. Life was very simple. And when life is simple, the focus is also clear. Our lives revolved around family, the parish church, school, and the plaza, where people congregate, where people meet each other, people get to know each other, etc. So, in a way, I can say that growing up with the family that I had, growing up in the town that we had, and the parish that we had, simplified many things for me, and we knew how to prioritize. But hard work, really.
No substitute for hard work.
No. And simple living. You earn, but if you splurge on things which are not important, then it amounts to nothing. And so we also combined, hard work with priorities, and where you could be simple and not aspire for a lifestyle that is beyond your means, then that's good.
And as a child growing up, what kind of things were you into? What sparked your interest?
I was fascinated with the sciences, and I think I was brainwashed by my parents and teachers into preparing myself for medical school. So I was bent on really going to become a doctor.
Your parents wanted you to be a doctor?
Yes, and I also wanted it. Mm-hmm. I did well in the sciences, math courses. Yeah, I think I was 13 years old when I started reading medical books in preparation for medical school. But that got interrupted, when I was invited to join a youth group in the parish. Yeah.
Joining that youth group, being surrounded by more people of their faith, how did that affect you?
I was befriended by a young priest who was the assistant pastor of the parish and who served also as a spiritual director of our group. And I did not realize that I was already getting inspired. But then he left, he was transferred to another parish. The priest who took his place, was good to us, but I did not have that emotional, affective link with him. And he invited me to an entrance examination, in the Jesuit University, which was one of the top universities in the Philippines. And he told me, I heard that you want to go into medical school. So why not try out, this Jesuit University? And they have scholarships, if you want. So I'm willing. So he said, you can take the entrance exam, but it's a battery of exams. I did not know the place. I was brought there. The first exam, name, age, etc. And then there was one question, type of vocation. So I went to the proctor. I said, what do I put here? He said, priesthood. I said, why priesthood? I said, this is an entrance exam to the seminary. So I was
tricked.
Yes, I was tricked. Yeah. And I was so angry. But the priest told me, I said, well, I just wanted to break your mindset. Try to consider other options. You're young, but you have narrowed down your choices to only one.
And when did it become a serious proposition, the life of a priest?
This priest who tricked me succeeded in confusing me. And so I really asked myself, do I really want to become a doctor? And I was convincing myself, yes. Then the results of the exams came out. I flunked the exam, you know. I was accepted to the university, but not to the seminary, you know. And then I felt sad. And then again, I told myself, well, if you don't want to enter the seminary, why are you sad? You know? So that started the soul searching, and then all the experiences in the parish, the apostolate, and the witness of these good priests.
You make it sound like it was just a series of coincidences and luck, but I mean, there must have been something within you that was roping you in.
Yes, and it seems that I needed people who saw or who see something in me that I failed to see, you know, to shake me and to wake me up.
Because you were young, you were 24 when you became a priest?
Yes.
Was that a difficult decision to make as a 24-year-old?
You know, I have a deep sense of not really making it my project. My project is to respond and let him call, you know. So even now, when I try to plan pastoral approaches or what, no, I make sure that I'm not the one calling the shots.
Was there any struggle within you when you thought about the things that you would be giving up, let's say, now as an ordained priest, marriage, a family? Yeah. Your life was going to be completely different.
I faced everything, I should say, with faith. I know is in God's hands. So whenever there seems to be some form of regret, you know, I just remember how God has been taking care of me, and the regret is secondary.
You were 55 when you became a cardinal?
Yes.
And I remember seeing that footage, and you were in tears. You were crying. Why was that moment so emotional?
I guess it was a mixture of, I did not expect it. When I look back, I say, my being a priest started with a joke. And then when I was named a bishop, I cried and cried, and I said, I am not prepared for that. I don't even see myself as a bishop. And I have to confess, even up to now, I struggle with that, I don't see myself as a bishop. And I sometimes doubt myself.
And why is that?
I think that I was prepared to teach. I was prepared to be a theology researcher. And I was still struggling with that, you know, how to become a bishop. And once in a while, as I confront myself, are you behaving like a bishop? Do you really consider yourself? Are you faithful to being a bishop, etc.? And then suddenly you become a cardinal.
But are you comfortable now with the role as cardinal?
I'm trying my best to not to be comfortable in the sense that that it becomes routine. No, I don't want that to happen. When I say comfortable, for me, it is to accept in faith, you know, whatever the demands may be. And even if I don't see myself, let me put it this way, if I were God, I would not choose me to be a bishop or a cardinal. But since I'm not God, God sees something in me probably that I don't see in myself. And I just have to trust God's knowledge of me. And even if I see my poverty, my limitations, my weaknesses, that might prevent me from being convinced that I am a good candidate for this position.
You are one of the youngest cardinals in the world, and arguably one of the most popular as well. I know even on social media, on Facebook, you have 500,000 followers. Is that something that you consciously do, reach out to younger people in the church through social media? You've your own television slot as well back in the Philippines.
Yes. I got convinced that this is the area to go, you know. And if you want to bring the good news, especially to the youth of today, then you mindful of the ambivalence and also some of the pitfalls in the contemporary social the means of social communication. Still, if put to good use, it could be a vehicle for evangelization and also for bringing more people to the Lord. So, in that sense, I deliberately do that. You know, being in touch with through media. Mm-hmm.
The Philippines is a fascinating country, booming country.
Yeah.
Over 106 million people is the population. And
100, at least 100 million.
100 million people.
At least. Yeah.
A lot of them, of course, living in poverty, around 25% of them below the poverty line. What do you see as the biggest challenges today for the Filipino people?
The scandal of dehumanizing poverty. You know, and it has become systemic. You know, I was talking with one poor man who was a driver of a public, and I remember it was close to election time at that time, and then so I asked him, also how do you choose, you know, the mayor or among the candidates, etc. And he told me, I have lived through 4 presidents and I'm still a driver. Mm-hmm. You could see that it says many things are changing, but the living conditions of some people have remained stagnant or even worse. And I call this a scandal because it reflects to us how justice is lived, how the common good is pursued or not pursued. So these are the principles of the social gospel of the church. You know, the gospel taking a social form. And in a country that is predominantly Christian, even Catholic, we are really stabbed at the heart, you know? It's like a dagger pointed at our consciences. That what's happening? We realize too that now one country is always connected to others. You are not in full control, but still you have something to look into.
And what do you think really needs to be tackled? Is it the corruption? Is it the poverty? Is it the crime?
You know, those are interconnected. Mm. You know, because of poverty, you know, criminality becomes an option for some. Not because they want to be criminals,
necessity.
But necessity. And then it becomes a lifestyle, it becomes that, you know. And then when corruption becomes systemic, you know, and then you see that the corrupt are leading comfortable lives.
And do you see it as something that's getting better? Or is it getting worse? Is it staying stagnant?
When you look at the statistics, you know, they say that the economy of the Philippines is improving.
But you don't see that among the ordinary people?
Yes, and also the past 7 years, there's been a steady growth in the economy, mm-hmm. but also a growth in the number of poor people. Now, these past 3 years, there seems to be a decrease, you know, according to statistics and to surveys of people who claim that they are experiencing extreme poverty. And we hope that the surveys are accurate.
Something that we take for granted here in the Western world, access to the internet. There are still huge areas of the Philippines and pockets of society where they are just gaining access to the internet now. And overall, we hope in the majority of cases that will lead to them broadening their horizons, being able to educate themselves, become involved in e-commerce. But you've seen the negative effects of that, where exploitation and abuse is creeping in.
Yeah. You know, again, no, this is one area, one example of human progress becoming also ambivalent. No, and it is not just in the internet and everything. No, in the history of humanity, wherever there is a sign of progress, we know also that it could be used
and abused,
for some and abused.
Mm-hmm.
And here, no, as you said, no, the internet as a way of connecting with people, broadening the horizon, education, even our capacity to empathize and to build solidarity, ties of solidarity. These are all possible with the internet. Unfortunately, it could be used also. No, like one horrible case is the use of the internet for online exploitation of children and of vulnerable peoples. Due to poverty, some families, it's just the parents.
The parents who are the perpetrators of this.
Yeah, these things, online exploitation, is happening in the homes, in the secrecy of the home.
And I heard you talk before, Cardinal, where you've said that when you confront these families and the parents, they don't see it as real abuse because it's not a physical thing; it's through a webcam or online.
Yes, that remark coming from a parent was reported to me by some religious women who have rescued some children, and when they interviewed some of the parents, they said, "Well, this is not real abuse because the client is in another continent." So the client is not touching my child. I am the one touching my child. And it can be used as an excuse. Since it is virtual, then it is not real.
Yeah.
And what makes me sad is I know the Filipino family, I know the Filipino culture. This is almost unthinkable, for the regular Filipino family to enter into. And so you wonder, what made them
do it?
Is it just necessity, or has there been a change of values, etc.? And so we have also been advocating some sort of a philosophical or theological reflection on the humanity of children and of all stages of life, because it is easy to, in our world right now, when commodification is a mindset, human beings are seen as commodities, but the most vulnerable in that type of mentality is children.
Let's talk for a moment about the scandal within the church and within the Catholic Church in the Philippines. Do you think the Filipino people are satisfied with how you and the church have dealt with the clergy who perpetrated some of these awful crimes on children?
Oh no! Whenever there are cases of maltreatment of children, that nobody will take that lightly. Especially when those that are accused of doing it are supposed to be the moral leaders. So included there are the priests, the religious, etc. So in the Philippines, there is a great sensitivity to that. Especially this past years, where I was not yet a bishop when the bishops of the Philippines formulated some sort of guidelines on how to respond to that. And we have seen an increase also in people's awareness and also reporting of cases. And the dioceses are more alert now and more responsive, especially in relationship with the Vatican, because of the protocols.
But even with all the reporting and the cases that have come to light within the Philippines, not one arrest, not one person prosecuted?
Well, it is yes, but at the same time, they don't always find fault in the church because the laws.
And why haven't the law come after those people, those clergy?
They handle it within the canonical process, But the civil legislation is different from what you find in Europe or in other parts of the world.
And do you find that most people in the Philippines are satisfied with that, with it being dealt internally within the church?
Some are generally, in fact, some would trust the canonical process better than the civil cases.
How is the Catholic Church in the Philippines today? It's a very young country. I remember reading that the median age is 24 years of age in the Philippines. Are the youth as into their faith as, let's say, their parents' generation?
I should say yes, but the expressions are different. The older generation has transmitted to the young, especially the expressions related to popular religiosity. So when we have processions, pilgrimages, the young people come in the millions. So you could see that there is an element of the faith that has entered the culture and has become cultural and religious at the same time. And also, they ask questions because the Philippine society has also changed. There are intermarriages, so you have the ecumenical issues, inter-religious issues, and they start asking questions. I visit the state universities to engage the young people in dialogue. In one university, the first question that I got was, is my prayer valid if I don't make the sign of the cross? So you could see that these children probably have friends who are not Catholic and who ask them, why do you make the sign of the cross? And then that generates a question in them. But when they ask their parents that, the parents panic, said, why are you doubting your faith? Oh, so we say, no, to ask questions is not a sign that someone is losing faith. Maybe he's searching for faith, looking for intelligence.
Intelligent faith rather than blind faith.
Yes, and it is good.
Finally, Your Eminence, what gives you still today your energy for the job that you're doing, your passion? Where does it come from?
I hesitate to say this, but I won't be honest also if I don't say it. I think it's love. You love Jesus and you love the church because I have been loved. I have been loved, even if I know I do not deserve that love, that trust from God and from the church. And how could you be tepid and lifeless when you're surrounded by love?
And I know you're very happy working in the Philippines, in your home city, but would you like to work in Vatican City someday?
I am a member of so many offices there, so I frequent Rome and the Vatican. So I could say that I'm already working there. So,
but many people say that you could be a man that could be there maybe with a full-time role.
I don't think so. I don't think they want me there.
You've said that all your life, and it's never gone to plan.
Occasional visits, probably they would appreciate my coming for occasional visits, but for me to stay there, probably they would not want.
Well, Cardinal Louis Antonio Tagla, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you too. Thank you. I enjoyed it.